The movie opens with a teenage boy named Sid, who is stalking his crush Angie at school. His friend Tiger encourages him to make a move and talk to her. Following his friend's advice, Sid shows off his skateboarding skills in front of Angie to get her attention, only to collide with a pile of trash and fall in embarrassment. Angie offers her hand to help him up, and Sid is mesmerized by her beauty. Since Angie is new in town, Sid proposes taking her out to explore the city. Angie agrees and asks for Sid's phone number, but unfortunately, Sid doesn't own a phone. To save him from further embarrassment, Tiger intervenes just in time and explains that Sid broke his phone in a heated argument with his former Russian girlfriend. As Sid makes moves on Angie, troublemaker Virgil watches from a distance, as he also likes Angie. After returning home, Sid asks his mother for his birthday gift money in advance because he needs to buy a phone. However, she only gives him 30 euros, which isn't enough to buy a phone. Later, Sid goes to his job at a restaurant where his boss, Fritz, scolds him for being late. After a while, Sid asks Fritz for his 50 euro salary in advance, but to his surprise, Fritz hands him 100 euros, which makes Sid very happy. However, when Sid flips the note, he realizes it's fake. Later on, Sid goes to a pawn shop and asks the shopkeeper to show him phones within his budget of 30 euros. The shopkeeper is disappointed with the budget but still shows him several phones, none of which Sid likes. Finally, the shopkeeper brings out a red mysterious phone with devil-like horns on it. Sid is instantly drawn to this unique phone and buys it for 30 euros. However, when he tries to turn it on, it doesn't work at all. Sid demands his money back from the shopkeeper, but suddenly the phone comes to life and takes a picture of Sid. Seeing the phone working, the shopkeeper tries to snatch it back, but Sid manages to escape from the shop. He goes straight to school, where Angie is sitting with her friends Margot and Clemens. Sid shows Angie his new phone, but Clemens starts making fun of its bright color. Just then, the phone takes a picture of Clemens by itself. Later in chemistry class, Sid and Tiger get into a fight with David after he mocks Tiger's mom, who was a former stripper. Meanwhile, Sid's phone mysteriously dials Margot on its own. When Margot answers, she becomes hypnotized and sets fire to Clemens's hair. Clemens, being seemingly oblivious to the flames, mentions that she is feeling hot. The teacher quickly rushes over and extinguishes the fire with a piece of cloth. Following the events, Margot is taken to the principal's office, where she explains that she received a call but can't remember what happened after answering it. The principal doesn't pay much attention to Margot's story as he is too busy looking at his fish and gives her a final warning before letting her go. On the other hand, Sid is at home practicing a conversation with Angie, unaware that his phone has actually dialed her. Angie listens to everything he says, and to cover up his embarrassment, Sid quickly tells her that he was rehearsing for an acting competition. After ending the call, he notices that there is also a call history with Margot. He shares this peculiar event with Tiger, but Tiger argues that Sid might have accidentally pressed a button. Just then, the math teacher flicks a piece of chalk at Sid's head and asks him a math question. Sid is clueless, but suddenly his phone starts displaying the answer. Sid glances at his phone and gives the correct answer to the teacher. However, the teacher thinks that Sid is using a calculator in his phone and tosses his phone out of the classroom window. Sid immediately rushes outside the classroom to retrieve his phone and is relieved to find it still working perfectly. He and Tiger are both baffled by how the phone knew the answer in advance. Later that evening, the phone mysteriously calls the math teacher, and when he answers, he suddenly starts vomiting chalk. The following morning, Sid wakes up to the tune of the Happy Birthday song. His phone is wishing him in a hologram format. Completely taken aback, Sid shares this event with Tiger, pointing out that he never even added his birth date to the phone. Concerned by the phone's mysterious powers, Tiger advises Sid to get rid of it. However, Sid refuses to do so, emphasizing how the phone has consistently proven beneficial to him. Sid then decides to use the phone to get his suspension from school lifted, which he had received for the fight in chemistry class. Suddenly, the phone dials the principal's assistant, and to Sid's surprise, the assistant mistakes him for the principal. Seizing the opportunity, Sid has his punishment revoked, leaving Tiger astonished by the phone's powers. Afterward, the two friends use the phone's abilities to acquire a lot of free items from the pawn shop, and Sid even books a trip to Cuba. Delighted with the phone's power, Sid decides to name it Hellphone. After a fun night at the strip club, Tiger asks Sid if he can borrow Hellphone for a few days to help reunite his parents. Sid agrees and hands Hellphone over to Tiger. However, as soon as Tiger holds the phone, it suddenly turns off and stops working. Tiger angrily puts the phone into a glass of water before storming off. Sid immediately retrieves the phone from the water, relieved to see it turning on. The next day at school, Virgil shames Tiger by putting up a derogatory poster of Tiger's mother outside the school. Just then, a thief on a motorcycle snatches Angie's iPod and tries to flee. Sid and Virgil begin chasing the thief, with Sid on his skateboard and Virgil in his car. Suddenly, Hellphone calls Franklin, who is sitting next to Virgil. As soon as he answers the call, he becomes hypnotized and steers the car into a wall. Meanwhile, Sid and Angie manage to tackle the thief at a red light and hand him over to the police. Angie expresses her gratitude to Sid for his help, and Sid invites her for a dinner. However, Angie declines, explaining that she needs to study for the history test. The next day at school, Tiger confronts Sid with the news that Virgil was seriously injured in an accident caused by Hellphone. He urges Sid to get rid of the phone, but Sid refuses, insisting that Virgil deserved it and that he won't throw the phone away. Sid then uses Hellphone to call the history teacher and obtain all the test questions in advance to help Angie with the upcoming test. Suddenly, Franklin drags Sid into a room where Virgil confronts him and beats him up for making advances toward Angie. Just then, Hellphone calls Virgil, but Sid quickly shoves the phone away, fearing it might cause serious harm to Virgil, which he doesn't want. At that moment, Clemens enters the room and reveals that Sid plans to leak the history test questions. Upon hearing this, Virgil and his friends back down as he has now become useful to them. Following the plan, Sid leaks all the questions, helping the entire class pass the test. Grateful for Sid's help, Angie invites him to join her for lunch during the break. This gesture angers Virgil, who begins mocking Sid in front of everyone, revealing that Sid's father left his mother for a bar girl. Infuriated by Virgil's comments, Sid abruptly leaves the table and instructs Hellphone to call Virgil. As soon as Virgil answers the call, he becomes completely hypnotized and humiliates himself by dancing naked in front of the entire cafeteria. His friend Franklin tries to stop him, but Virgil pulls Franklin into a kiss. Witnessing Virgil's bizarre behavior, Angie leaves the scene. Seizing the opportunity, Sid follows her outside and asks her out on a date. To his delight, Angie agrees and asks him to pick her up in the evening. Excited, Sid returns home and gets ready for his date with Angie. He notices his mother reading a letter, and she reveals that she's won a holiday package to Cuba in a lottery. Unbeknownst to her, Sid had orchestrated the entire thing with Hellphone's help to make her happy. As Sid is about to leave for his date, his mother asks him about his job, which infuriates him, leading him to start cursing his boss Fritz. Hellphone listens and immediately calls Fritz. Upon answering the phone, Fritz becomes hypnotized and plunges his face into the deep fryer, horrifying everyone. Meanwhile, Sid arrives at Angie's house to pick her up for their date in a supercar, which in reality belongs to Virgil's father, and Sid has obtained it with the help of Hellphone. At the same time, Virgil and his friends speculate that someone is hypnotizing people through phone calls and causing them to do strange and bizarre things. Just then, Sid drives past them in the borrowed car with Angie, leaving Virgil utterly bewildered as he watches them pass by in his father's car. Later, while Sid and Angie are enjoying a movie at the theater, Sid tries to tell Angie the truth about Hellphone but realizes he left it in the car. As he steps outside to retrieve it, Virgil and his friends corner him, accusing him of stealing Virgil's father's car and punch him in the face before driving away. Sid returns to the theater with his broken nose and confesses the truth to Angie, explaining that the car isn't his but was borrowed from Virgil's father to impress her. However, Angie doesn't seem to care about it and ridicules him for wearing a suit. Admittedly, Sid removes his suit and they both get comfortable with each other. In the car, Hellphone starts ringing, and when Franklin answers it, he jumps out of the moving car in the middle of the highway, leading to a fatal accident involving a truck. As Sid and Angie exit the movie theater, they are suddenly arrested by the police, following accusations from Virgil and David, who claim that Sid is hypnotizing people through phone calls, which they believe led to Franklin's death. While the officer was questioning Sid and Angie, Hellphone calls him and hypnotizes the officer as well. He suddenly becomes very friendly towards Sid, and returns Hellphone before letting them go. As Sid leaves the police station, he hears the news about Fritz burning his face and realizes the true danger posed by Hellphone. Panicking, he runs off and confronts Hellphone, demanding to know why it's causing harm to people. Hellphone responds, "Because I love you, Sid." Shocked by the response, Sid rushes to Tiger's house, only to find that Tiger's mother has reverted to her previous job as a stripper due to Hellphone's influence. She attempts to seduce Sid, climbing on top of him. Just then, Tiger comes out of his room and sees this before punching Sid in the face. Sid flees the house and desperately tries to destroy Hellphone but fails miserably. Finally, an idea strikes him, and he drops the phone into a deep pit before returning home. On the other hand, Virgil, David, Margot, and Clemens gather at Angie's house to discuss the recent events. They explain that Sid is causing harm to people through his phone and is responsible for all the strange occurrences, including Virgil's naked dancing and Franklin's death. However, Angie defends Sid, revealing that she saw the phone making calls on its own at the police station, which proves that Sid has no involvement in that. At the same time, while Sid is asleep at his house, a few construction workers knock on his door, having come to return his phone which they retrieved from the pit. Sid is shocked, but just then, Tiger arrives, and both of them put their differences aside before deciding to confront the situation. Suddenly, Hellphone rings, and Sid answers in frustration, telling it that he doesn't love Hellphone and wants it to leave him alone. Hellphone responds that it knows the bitch who is coming between them and that she must die. Meanwhile, a telephone rings at Angie's house, and everyone hesitates to pick it up, but suddenly, Clemens answers it and gets hypnotized. However, it turns out that she's just joking, and it's actually Angie's mother on the line, reminding her to turn off the gas in the kitchen. Just then, Margot's phone rings as well, and she answers it. She then hands the phone to Virgil, claiming her mom wants to talk to him, before grabbing knives from the kitchen and stabbing herself multiple times under the phone's influence. Virgil also gets hypnotized by the phone and splashes the boiling liquid on Clemens's face. David knocks out Virgil, but Margot's phone rings again, and this time Angie's dog picks it up and attacks David. On the other hand, Sid and Tiger are on their way to Angie's house to save her. Upon arriving, they see Angie fighting with her mom and knock her mom out with their skateboards. Relieved, Angie hugs Sid and tearfully explains that all her friends are dead. Determined to end the chaos, they decide to destroy the phone using a hydraulic press in Angie's garage. However, Virgil tries to stop them from doing this and attacks Sid with a chainsaw, but it accidentally lands on an electric socket, electrocuting and killing him. They place the phone into the hydraulic press, crushing it into a cube. However, just seconds later, the phone miraculously starts to return to its original shape. Determined, Sid comes up with a new plan and decides to freeze the phone in the nitrogen tank at the school's chemistry lab. However, Hellphone dials all the students present in the classroom simultaneously. As one girl answers the call, Angie knocks her out, threatening everyone against answering the call. Just then, the hypnotized principal enters the classroom and forcefully presses his phone to the teacher's ear, causing the teacher to become hypnotized and drink acid. Seeing this, all the students in the lab panic and run away. Suddenly, Sid and Angie notice a horde of hypnotized students rushing toward the chemistry lab and quickly lock all the doors. Angie grabs the nitrogen tank and drops the phone inside, but before it can freeze, the principal snatches the tank from her and pulls the phone out. Just then, the horde of students breaks into the classroom, and chaos ensues as they all wrestle for the phone. Amid the struggle, Tiger manages to retrieve the phone, but before he can drop it back into the nitrogen tank, a student places his cell phone against Tiger's ear. Despite this, Tiger successfully drops the phone into the tank, and in a matter of seconds, Hellphone freezes completely, breaking the hypnotic spell on all the students. Sid asks Tiger how he managed to resist being hypnotized by the phone. Tiger grins and reveals his earplugs, which kept him from falling under the phone's spell. The trio then travel to the middle of the ocean on a ship, where they dispose of the nitrogen tank containing Hellphone into the sea. Finally, Sid and Angie confess their love for each other with a kiss, while Tiger awkwardly walks away. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.